Good afternoon, Trump's family. Welcome back to my channel. Thank you for joining me. God bless each and every one of you. Let's just jump right in, folks. There's plenty of things to talk about. And it looks like Eyepatch McCain is up there again, lying out there trying to defame, of course. Alex Stein, and all outside does is continue to expose Dan Crenshaw for the globalist puppet that he is, as he continues to love his lust for war, sending Americans to die. He doesn't care, continue to send billions to Ukraine, and continuing to support the fact that we went to war over a lie. And unfortunately, we lost a lot of good men and women because of those lies, because of the war propaganda in the military-industrial machine that continues to pump out into bankers everybody who made $1 off American blood that was spilt because of lies that were told. That is not a slam at veterans. Veterans did an honorable job doing that, however. They unfortunately were fighting for something that was not righteous. And Dan Crenshaw is part of that, he knows that. And that's why he's part of the WEF. And that's why he continues to support Biden and sending billions to Ukraine in order to hopefully start a hot conflict with Russia. Well, here we have Dan Crenshaw, once again, getting it absolutely wrong about what Alex Stein is actually doing. He's calling out him as a globalist. And what does Dan Crenshaw do while he tries to hold up his shield, being the veteran, to deflect any type of criticism of him sending billions of dollars to Ukraine, and the continued effort to hopefully start a hot war with Russia so that way, we can go ahead and pump in more military-industrial dollars, and continue to send our boys and women to go die on the front, and some foreign land over some greedy politician. And that's what Dan Crenshaw has become. So he put out this tweet today. Let's go and put it out. Put it up here. Dan Crenshaw, he says, well, America, this is what happens when our culture degrades boys and doesn't teach them to be men. They end up like Alex Stein, as shameless. But that product tour that is so desperate for clicks, he will shame a group of veterans for their service. Oh yeah, Dan Crenshaw, see, he only plays a clip here. He doesn't play the whole thing because he knows the whole thing would be incriminating toward him. Dan Crenshaw is a liar. Dan Crenshaw is someone who sat there and is willing to send men and women to go die so he can continue to make bank. That dude is one of the richest people on the stock market, as he trades in Congress. He even beats Nancy Pelosi out on his trades. That's how good they are in Congress. Yeah. Dan Crenshaw is an absolute fool. He'll sit there and he'll use veterans to shield himself from any type of criticism. And Alex Stein was out there, obviously pointing out what Dan Crenshaw actually stands for. He doesn't stand for the people of Texas. He flies over to Ukraine to make sure he shakes hands with the cross-dresser Zelensky over there. As we continue to pump billions over to him, he could care less about the open border. He cares less about the Constitution. He supports red flag laws for Americans in this country. He would be no problem supporting a bill that would sit there and strip Americans have their God-given right up to their Second Amendment. Dan Crenshaw is a fraud. He is Eyepatch McCain. He is someone who wants to be the media darling, somebody who started over on SNL, who continues to want to rub up with the rhinos within Congress, and Democrats have continued to want to steal your rights away. Alex Stein has every right to sit there and call him out for his BS, and Dan Crenshaw as like a little child, like a little individual little worm, trying to hide behind his veteran status and trying to use veterans as human shields is disgusting, even low for Dan Crenshaw to do. But that's, I guess, what globalists do when they get caught in the corner and don't want to have to answer for the record for sending billions and billions of dollars overseas to some pointless country. And then, we've got 5 bombshells coming out of Special Counsel John Durham's latest filing, and we're gonna see for ourselves. The things are more shocking than we could have imagined. Let's dive right in here. You know, in the midst of all of this insanity with the epidemic of FBI raids that we've been seeing of late, there's another reason for the feds to be panicking here, and it goes way beyond their role and deliberately attempting to, cover up the whole 100 Biden laptop or do their best to interfere with the midterms by trying to intimidate ultra-mega leaders in the light. They more and more have the investigation of Special Counsel John Durham to contend with. The Federalist is reporting that a Virginia federal court just the other day unsealed Durham's latest filing. It's a filing that seeks a ruling from the court on the admissibility of various evidence regarding the upcoming trial of Danchenko. Then she goes being charged with lying to the FBI about his work on the dossier, the now infamous Russian dossier, that provided salacious details of a trip that Trump supposedly took to Russia, that Putin was using to blackmail then-candidate Trump, and subsequently President Trump. Then Chico's actually being charged with 5 counts of lying to the FBI about the sources he used for fabricating the dossier that he delivered to the former British spy Christopher Steele, who put the dossier together and sold it to Hillary Clinton as opposition research against Trump. Alright, as I understand it, Steele knowingly hired Danchenko had to put together fraudulent accusations against Trump for crimes he obviously didn't commit, and accordingly, Greg Jarrett over at Fox News. The money that Steele got to finance the fabricated dossier came directly from the Clinton campaign in a deliberate effort to tie Donald Trump to Russian interference in the election. Well, now, these filings have been made public. They're revealing a number of bombshells that actually count for precisely why the FBI and the DOJ have gotten so desperate of late. Bombshell number 1. The FBI originally investigated Danchenko for ties with Russian intelligence is very, very interesting, and it sets the stage for the second bombshell. Okay. According to this write-up of the Federal, as FBI agents were called in to investigate Danchenko back in 2010 or so, after they learned that he was looking to purchase classified information from his county workers. He was employed at a prominent think tank in D.C., and Danchenko apparently engaged to county workers to see if they had access to classified information. And he told him that he had contacts, presumably Russian intelligence officers, who would pay big money for that kind of information. Now, upon investigation, the FBI found that Danchenko was indeed in contact with Russian intelligence agencies. But apparently, the investigation stopped when the FBI wrongly concluded that Danchenko had left the country. Now that sets up for bombshell number 2. The FBI paid for Russian disinformation to target Trump. Now this is where things take a fascinating and sinister turn, according to the court filing by Durham in March 2017. So this is 5 or 6 years after their initial investigation of the Sky. The FBI didn't just learn about Christopher Steele's dossier against Trump. They also discovered that was this guy Danchenko. He was actually Steele's primary source for all the fabricated stories that were made up about Trump. Now you would think, of course, that the FBI upon this discovery would reopen their investigation to Danchenko, but now with focus on his feeding Christopher Steele a bunch of fabricated Russian disinformation aimed deliberately at undermining a free and fair presidential election, you would think right. But that's not what the FBI did. Instead, the FBI actually signed up Danchenko as a paid informant, a CHS, a confidential human source, knowing that he would be feeding them lies, the same kind of lies he was feeding Christopher Steele that the FBI knew about, and of course, this is all happening while we're learning that the top brass of the FBI were using the fraudulent Steele dossier, which again, they knew was fake. They were using it to obtain FISA warrants to spy against Trump. So the FBI actually paid for Danchenko to continue to feed them Russian disinformation. In order to frame the president for colluding with Russia as worse than we thought. The very fellow who's responsible for all of those disgusting salacious lies about Trump contained in that fabricated dossier was a paid informant by the FBI. Your tax dollars paid him to frame our president. Bombshell number 3. Hillary paid for Russian disinformation. Now, I know many of us already know this. But this filing adds one more layer of detail to all of this. We now know Christopher Steele, who put the dossier together, sold it to the Hillary Clinton campaign as opposition research against Trump. And we also know, according to CIA documents, that Hillary Clinton personally approved of this devious operation, but now with this latest filing, if you can believe it, we now know that it was Hillary who was paying through Christopher Steele. It was Hillary who was the one who was actually paying a suspected Russian agent based on the FBI investigation. Danchenko. Back in 2010. I mean, let that hit. You can't make this stuff up. The Clinton campaign is accusing Trump of colluding with Russian agents to interfere with the 2016 election. Right, we had a freaking 3-year investigation to the tune of tens of millions of dollars via bumbling Bob Mueller didn't even know what was in the report when all was said and done. For heaven's sake. We got the Clinton machine and their clipping seals and the lamestream media pushing this utter nonsense that Trump colluded with Russian intelligence agents to interfere with the 2016 election. And it was freaking Hillary herself who was buying off someone, who the FBI previously investigated as a freaking Russian agent, precisely in order to interfere with the election. Speech I literally have, I don't know what to say. I'm flabbergasted. This is the most amazing story of political intrigue in a generation. It's right there, right underneath the lamestream media snarling noses. And they can't see it. They refuse to see it. They should be on the front pages of every single newspaper on the nation. I mean, wow. 4. Corruption in the FBI paid for Russian disinformation. Now this is just an extension of what we covered earlier. There's no two ways about this. But when it comes to the FBI, we're dealing with both corruption and incompetence. At the heart of this agency, the incompetence was demonstrated in the fact that the FBI closed an investigation to Danchenko because they wrongly thought he left the country. The corruption was then demonstrated with the FBI knowingly paying Danchenko as an informant, even though they knew what he was peddling them was a bunch of Russian disinformation. And by the way, no wonder why the FBI is such experts in Russian disinformation. It's what they themselves are actually peddling. And for them, it didn't matter because it was all for a good cause to get rid of Trump. Now, before we get into bombshell number 5, I want you to know that was locked down is always a threat from the bumbling Biden administration. Alright, 5. The FBI is arguing they were duped. That's the story they're using to cover this all up. They're claiming that they were lied to by Danchenko. In fact, that's exactly what Christopher Steele is arguing as well. When all is said and done, the FBI's defense and all of this is this. Well, it was all just one big misunderstanding. Nothing more. Nothing to see here. Please move on and allow us to continue our important work of defending American justice. We'll certainly be keeping our eyes on how things develop here, but there appears little question this latest filing has exposed the fact that corruption the FBI and the Democratic Party may indeed be deeper than any of us imagine. Thank you very much. WWG1WGA. Hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button to watch the next episode.